Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and jabronis, to your NFL Week 6 live reaction. It's Mitch here to break down everything I saw on Sunday, NFL Week 6, including Baker winning the battle of backups between the Bucs and the 49ers. Not this time, Mac. Drake Maye and the Patriots continuing to climb up the standings. We're going to talk about Drake Maye. Maybe the MVP. The Panthers are 3-3? What? The Los Angeles Rams struggled with a really bad Ravens team for at least a half. The Packers didn't look too impressive against Joe Flacco in his debut with the Bengals, and a lot more. So, if that sounds good, we do this live every single week of the NFL season. Gronk, spike the like button. Let's get to our reactions, and let's get to our rants. Welcome, everybody, to the chat. And if you do have a question and you for sure want it answered, then super chat. That's the only way I can guarantee it. Let's kick off this Week 6 reaction with the game of the day until Sunday night, which is the Lions and Chiefs. The game of the day was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the San Francisco 49ers. Bucs take it by a final of 30-19. This was a close game throughout, though. The Bucs finishing it off with a final field goal to give them the 2-score victory at home. Biggest headline of this game, in my opinion, is Fred Warner's injury. It sucks for that to be kind of the biggest headline of the game, but whenever one of the top 10 players, probably right now in the NFL, gets hurt, you have to kind of tip your hat, and we're not sure how long Fred Warner will be out, but he did appear to severely injure his ankle. It could be broken, fractured. It's definitely for sure twisted. Both of these teams extremely injured. Both of these teams extremely beat up. The Bucs survived. The Bucs won this one, in my opinion, thanks to some turnovers. 2 interceptions from Mac Jones. One at the very beginning of the game, nearly the first drive for the 49ers. And one near the end of the game where the Niners were leading a potential game-tying drive, and Mac threw a pick on 4th and 5. 4th and 5, 4th and 4. Tosses it up to Jamel Dean. The veteran comes down with it. Both plays disguised well by Todd Bowles. And Todd Bowles finally, even though he did give up a lot of yards in this game defensively, had some answers for a Kyle Shanahan offense with a couple big plays. A lot of sacks. 6 sacks on Mac Jones in this game. He did drop back and throw the ball 39 times, 39 attempts. He also collectively had 45 dropbacks, including the sacks. So 45 dropbacks. Eventually, every game it feels like the Niners are having to drop back this many times because they are a pass-first team, which is cool. In the NFL nowadays, you want to throw the ball a lot, but 40 times a game isn't exactly ideal. And against a team with a complex scheme like the Bucs, you're going to get caught on the road a few times. Mac isn't exactly elusive. He went down 6 times. Last week, he navigated the Rams pass rush by getting the ball out very quickly. I think the Bucs did a better job of pairing their coverage with their rush in those scenarios. And Mac was fooled on both interceptions. This is a point I want to get to when it comes to both Mac and Tua. Both guys are smart quarterbacks. I think Mac's better personally, but both predetermine where they're going to go with the ball pretty frequently, and that leads to interceptions. In both of the interception cases, one you could argue is Kendrick Bourne's fault, the first one, but even if he throws that, I think it's an incompletion and they get stopped on 3rd down. He kind of predetermined he was going to go there. Same thing, could be said about the fade route where he was trying to find, I think it was Jawan Jennings on the 4th down, instead of just hitting the guy in the flat, right? He had the guy in the quarter flat corner kind of scenario, or the curl flat scenario where he had to pick and choose his assignment. Dean went deeper, left the underneath guy open. Max still went to the deep man, and it was a pick, right? And that also happens when you're going to drop back 45 times, where you're going to make mental mistakes, right? These guys are human after all. So you're going to make some errors in your judgment of what the coverage is. So give both some credit there. Both coaching staffs deserve some credit. But I think ultimately this game comes down to Baker Mayfield against Mac Jones and Tampa's front seven against the 49ers front seven. Ultimately, the Niners and the Bucs both have tons of injuries. Probably the Niners have more if you were to add up like all pros and stuff like that, right? The Niners in this game, no Nick Bosa, after a quarter, no Fred Warner, no Brandon Ayuk, no Ricky Pearsall, right? They were missing their left guard, missing numerous players, okay? The Bucs, eventually by the second half, were missing their top three receivers. They were missing a couple offensive linemen and a couple cornerbacks. So both teams extremely beat up. The battle of backups for a reason. But the main core that held for the Bucs, that won them this game, was their MVP caliber quarterback Baker Mayfield and the front seven. They still have their front seven fully intact. For the 49ers, that front seven was depleted. They're missing two all-pro, borderline Hall of Fame players. Like, I think Fred Warner is basically a lock to make the Hall of Fame, while Nick Bosa is a Hall of Fame talent, I would say. So having both those guys out completely ruins the game for the Niners, and you can tell their defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. Like, the Niners, as many people that will blame maybe the 49ers, Mac Jones, or whatever, the reason they lost this game is because their defense is just not very good right now. They can't get to the quarterback, even despite the Bucs injuries up front. They're not great against the run. Because they can't get to the quarterback, they have to blitz. When they blitz, they're not very good in their coverage assignments. And honestly, I kind of felt like they were scared to blitz in the second half, although they should have. Like, if I'm Robert Saleh, I'm sitting there saying, if we get beat because we blitz, let's just go with it. Because, like, ultimately, we can't get pressure on Baker, consistently enough. And our strength of our team, our defense right now, is our secondary. Like, at the end of the day, because at least they're healthy. So I think the Niners need to make those adjustments moving forward. And there are a couple big plays by the Bucs where you could see the Fred Warner loss, their communication and coverage. I think it was one of the Johnsons, not Tez, but the other one. Cameron Johnson had a 34-yard touchdown where he was just wide, butt-ass naked, wide open. Just motioning from left to right. Nobody picks him up. I think Jair Brown, might have been able to pick him up there, and he just missed the assignment. I think ultimately, if Fred Warner plays this game, I probably think the Niners actually win this game. That's how big of a difference he is in the game. Just in terms of the tackling, the communication, the leadership. Even without Nick Bosa, I kind of think the Niners probably still win this game, just because they probably would have gotten a stop or something. But regardless, the Bucs deserve the win because of, like I said, their front made more plays. They had an opportunistic strip sack that didn't turn into a strip sack because Mac's knee was down. They had 6 sacks, and they forced turnovers thanks to a combination of pressure and coverage tricks. Okay, and Baker, meanwhile, was kept clean. 1 sack only, a 139 passer rating, 2 touchdowns, 256 yards, 17 for 23. Okay, their run game, I thought Rachaad White, despite his yards per carry, was very good in this game. 17 carries for 65 yards, had numerous runs where he was just able to bulldoze, and just make a play or like make a guy miss or something. Like, to me, very impressive that way. Sean Tucker didn't have too much action, but he did score a touchdown in the game, the first touchdown of the game. Overall, the receiving core for the Bucs, Emeka Egbuka, he left, I think, at halftime, but he was actually kept pretty in check until he left the game. He only had 2 catches to that point for 24 yards. Tez Johnson had a one catch for 45 yards. Again, another play where I'd say if you have Fred Warner, that touchdown might not happen just because, it's another coverage bust where Tez Johnson just literally runs down the seam. He adjusts his route, he runs down the seam, and it's another coverage bust. The Niners defense looked a lot like the Cowboys the first couple weeks. They're playing their match coverages. Some guys just don't know their assignments or a little bit off in their assignments, and it feels like, what are we doing here? So I do wonder how the game would have went in the second half, where it got a lot more defensive if Fred Warner would have played, just because I think it would have been down to the absolute wire. Just because a couple touchdowns the Bucs had today were just clear wide open. On the other side, I think Mac Jones for like 80% of the game played actually really well. Despite the interceptions, he averaged 8.9 yards per completion, 27 completions, 347 yards, where he is on average putting up 300 plus yards a game, which leads the NFL. His average actually went up after this game. I think it's like 310 yards per game, which leads the league. So obviously that's not sustainable if you're the 49ers. But once again, I thought he made a number of nice throws over the middle of the field, down the sidelines. Even some of the incompletions were pretty impressive from Mac Jones. Kendrick Bourne once again went nuclear, 5 catches, 142 yards. Jake Tonges continues to be a nice number 2 tight end without George Kittle, 6 for 58. McCaffrey did his thing through the air, 7 for 57. But once again, on the ground, not too efficient. He did have a couple nice runs, but again, the Niners struggled to run the ball. Really, not many teams can run on the Bucs, but especially the Niners have struggled all year to run the ball. Only 54 yards and a touchdown. Marcus Robinson had a couple good plays before the half, but it wasn't too good. Valdez-Scantling just isn't an NFL starting receiver. Jawan Jennings, probably the biggest surprise in the game, did next to nothing. And apparently he was yelling at the coaches too. So Jawan Jennings might be in the doghouse moving forward. He might be demoted to wide receiver 4 on this team because Kendrick Bourne is just simply outplaying him. And Ricky Pearsall and Brandon Ayuk are more talented. So I do wonder where Jawan Jennings does stand once they get those guys back. But I think what we're looking at between these two teams, the Bucs are a team that I think are an NFC championship caliber team because I know they're going to get healthy. With the 49ers, I would say the same thing, but without Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, their defense is just completely a shell of itself. Like, you were already counting on your studs defensively to be juggernauts because you had so many youthful elements. The thing that has been missed about the 49ers is they have so many rookies, so many young players. And it's just asking a lot for those guys to step up in the place of Hall of Famers. So with the 49ers, I think they're going to be tough because they're extremely well coached. Their offense, when healthy, is going to be an absolute juggernaut. I think they had like 400 yards today, despite a bunch of backups. And the Bucs, though, feel like a team that when healthy, because I know that their defense is depleted in the back end, and that changes how they've performed. I am still a little worried about this defense against the pass. That's still, to me, kind of the weakness. You know, another performance here where Mac Jones and a West Coast style offense, Kyle Shanahan and Kubiak back-to-back weeks put up 300-plus yards. The Bucs are going to be a team defensively that will get better when their corners are there. I think missing Morrison and missing Izine, I believe, at safety, and then also missing, the name is slipping, McCollum, are going to be big deals. And Jamel Dean this year has actually played really well. I think this is his best season I've seen him play in like 3 years. So that's a big deal. And offensively, obviously, the Bucs, when healthy, are a juggernaut, top 5 offense in the league. And Baker is just that element, that leader, that quarterback. Like, he's in the realm right now of elevator of talent like Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes and, dare I say, Drake Maye. But Baker Mayfield is an elevator around him. Well, Mac Jones, it's more coming from the scheme, I would say. And I think the ability for the Bucs to run the ball a bit better was also a huge element in this game as well. So I think the positives here, Tampa Bay moving forward, big win for them, 5-1. This is a big game in the number 1 seed NFC race, getting another win over a big NFC foe, putting themselves in a 5-1 position, getting healthy down the stretch, hopefully with Godwin getting better as the season goes on. Although I don't think Godwin is as impactful as people want him to be, because Like Buka's there, sorry. Tez Johnson's looking pretty good. They're going to get Bucky back. They're going to get Evans back. So honestly, Godwin is a cherry on top. I think the corners are more important. And this front of the Bucs looks as good as it's looked in about since I would say like 2021. So that's really good for the Bucs. But the Niners, they'll continue to move the ball. They'll put up points. They'll probably beat most teams in this league, just not the top upper echelon with those defensive injuries. They simply can't overcome it. They have no pass rush whatsoever. And Fred Warner being out is just going to crucify their coverage because they need to figure that out. I don't know. But also penalties for the Niners, 9 penalties for 65 yards was a pretty big killer, especially a lot of holdings. The Niners did actually outgain the Bucs, 363 to 352. It was pretty close. They also had the ball longer and ran more plays, 67 plays to 50. 0 for 2 on fourth downs, a pretty big deal for the 49ers, and then 32 minutes of possession compared to 27. But like I said, I think the mistakes, especially early on, and then just Baker versus Mac and the front seven pressure from the Bucs versus no pressure by the Niners. Pretty much the story of the game for me. 30-19 Buccaneers take it in the battle of backups. John, answer your question right now. Am I doing the Lions game? John, you were in the Patriots chat for the 18th time. I do not do Sunday Night Football this year. Not trying to be sour. Not trying to call you out, John. Appreciate the super chat, bro. But I'm not doing Sunday Night Football unless the Patriots are playing in the game. Let's get to it. So let's keep it going. Good win by the Bucs. Good win by the Bucs. I feel for the Niners, man. This team is just cursed. Like, I don't know what to tell you. This team is just cursed. Yeah, team is just cursed. Absolutely. But, you know, and there goes Strawberry. Your boy was trash. Should have had 5 turnovers. Thought actually Mac played strong for about 80% of the game. Kind of a reminiscent to Brock Purdy performance here. You know, 2 interceptions on the day for Mac Jones. All right, let's get to the next game. Let's touch on the Packers and the Bengals. I was more so paying attention to Niners and Bucs, of course, but I do want to talk about it. 27-18, the Packers win. They are 3-1-1, 3-0 at home. The Bengals are 2-4. I think there were some good promising things from the Bengals here, and some good things for the Packers. They had 400 yards. And 24 first downs and 32 minutes of possession, but also just some underwhelming elements too. Like, this should be a team you beat by multiple touchdowns. I will say Joe Flacco, and, you know, he wasn't Jake Browning. Like, Jake Browning has been the worst quarterback in the NFL by a pretty wide margin. And it felt like Joe Flacco in the second half actually started to figure out the offense. They got a rhythm going. T. Higgins started to dominate. Jamar Chase started to dominate. They started to kind of find a little bit of a rhythm, to be honest with you. So moving forward, depending on who the Bengals play, like, I wouldn't rule the Bengals out against the Steelers, because despite the yardage they're allowing, I actually kind of don't hate the Bengals defense right now. Like, 2 consecutive weeks against top 10 offenses, the Packers and the Lions, I feel like they've played pretty admirably. Like, maybe this is just a very low bar for the Bengals defense, but they held the Packers to, like, I don't know, like, they were pretty good in certain situations. Like, third down, they weren't too bad. It felt like the Packers Jordan Love had to extend a lot of plays. Trey Hendrickson got hurt in the second half. He had to leave the game. They also forced an interception in the game. Red zone, they only, you know, they were 3 for 4, the Packers. But I don't know, man. Maybe I just have an incredibly low bar for the Bengals defense, but I do feel like the last 2 weeks, just from my eyes, they're playing a bit better. Now, maybe that's also with, like, because the Bengals offense isn't as good as last year. Maybe that's part of it. So they're on the field more. But I actually thought that Love played a pretty good game here in terms of his extension ability, his scrambling ability, some of his downfield throws. The actual part of the Packers that's making me frustrated is they are not, like, scheming up a lot of plays as much as usual or as much as last year. That's just from my perspective. But it feels like Love is not having guys running wide open as much as we're used to seeing. With Matt LaFleur, it feels like we're used to seeing guys just wide open, a lot of like crossing routes and stuff. And defenses are starting to clue on that. And I feel like Love has actually upped his game. 7 incompletions, 19 for 26, 259. He did throw a pick, but he did have a touchdown. 10 yards per completion, a 101 rating. Jacobs found some life in this game. 93 yards, 5.2 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Love had 7 scrambles, which is more than I can remember from him. Matthew Golden had a breakout game with 3 catches for 86 yards. He also carried 2 rushes for 16 yards as well. Romeo Doubs had a few catches. He was heavily targeted 9 times. And it does feel like the Packers are missing their 2 most talented receivers. Christian Watson probably going to be back next week. Jaden Reed going to be back later in the year. But it is pretty evident that they're missing that receiver that like at least pulls the defense to give them that space to complete those shot plays, which I feel like is Watson. Golden isn't really that guy. Golden is kind of more so taking Reed's reps, it feels like. So I think with Watson back, a little bit more of a vertical dimension to the offense, that could open things up a little bit more for them. So watch out for that. But I do think that they are kind of missing a little bit from their receiving core. The offensive line was better in this game, I would say, especially on those extended plays. And the Bengals defense, though, obviously doesn't have a great pass rush. And by the end of the game, they were without Stewart and Hendrickson. But again, like the Packers defense, this is a game they should dominate. And they did dominate in the first half. They were up 10-0 at half. But then they allow 18 points in the second half, 11 points in the fourth quarter. And it did feel like I said, Joe Flacco got a rhythm. He did complete 29 passes for only 219 yards, so only 4 yards per completion, but a lot of dink, dunk, 90 rating, and only 1 sack against Joe Flacco, who can't move, and an offensive line that is one of the worst in the league. Only 1 sack for Micah Parsons and this unit is not good enough. So the Packers pass rush is severely lacking right now, and that's really hurting their defense. And then in the second half, we saw Chase and Higgins dominate their matchups. 10 for 94 and a touchdown for Chase, 5 for 62 on 8 targets for the Bengals. So Packers to me are a legit NFC contender. A lot of that comes down to that there isn't a lot in the NFC or in the NFL in terms of contention. I don't think much of these teams, like even what I just talked about, the Bucs. The Bucs, when healthy, have a lot of upside, but I still don't usually look at that team as a legitimate Super Bowl team. The Rams look like shit today, and they lost to the backup Niners last week. The Lions, we'll see what they look like tonight. That's probably your favorite in the NFC, but the Packers aren't too far off. The Niners are literally dead. Half their team is injured. So there's just not a lot of competition. The Commanders, to me, are like an above-average team. Like, I don't really see much. Seattle, to me, is not a contender. A playoff team, not a contender. So the Packers are still a contender because they've got good coaching. They've got a really talented defense, and the offense is good. It's just they've got to play up to their standard. It feels like they're not playing up to their standard. They're not playing up to their level, but they're 3-1-1. This is a team that I think with their coaching will grow throughout the season. But yeah, not a good performance. I wouldn't say this is a great performance from them whatsoever. Okay, let's get to the next game. Guys, if you want your question answered or your comment answered, make sure to super chat. Don't forget to Gronk spike the like button. This helps this reaction find all NFL fans across the globe. If you want to show your love, then like the video. It's free. Okay, I did not watch a minute of the Raiders and the Titans. Actually, I did. I watched a minute, okay? Right before the Niners game came on. I watched a minute, but that's it. But the Raiders won 20-10. I'm not going to talk about it. The two of the bottom 5 teams in the league. If I want to talk about the game, if anything relatively interesting came out of the game, I'll talk about it on Tuesday, okay? I'm not going to talk about it and waste my time. All right? The Dallas Cowboys, who tied the Green Bay Packers, lost today to the 3-3 Carolina Panthers, who took it at home. They're now 3-0 at home. So when the Panthers are at home, they're going to win. When the Panthers are on the road, they're going to lose. 30-27, Carolina. Bryce Young with 3 touchdowns. Tetaroa McMillan with 2 of them in this game. 114 passer rating from Bryce Young. Not an electric yardage performance, under 200 yards, only 25 attempts. But Bryce Young, 3 touchdowns. The story of the game, Rico Dowdle revenge. 30 carries, 183 yards, 6 yards per carry. 2 consecutive weeks of Rico freaking Dowdle rushing for 180 plus yards. And this is why I was kind of high on the Panthers offense before the year. Their run game, right? Their run game at the end of last season, exceptional. Now, I thought it would be Chuba Hubbard for a majority of this season. If we found out it's Rico Dowdle, who had a revenge game, right? 30 for 183 is crazy. ETN also took 3 carries for 17 yards, so it wasn't just him. Jimmy Horn had 1 for 11. I mean, my goodness. So Dallas, a team that I've kind of been praising for their run defense, they got shredded on the ground. They got absolutely ripped apart. And then Rico Dowdle didn't just lead the team in rushing, he led the team in receiving. 4 catches, 56 yards. I remember a touchdown of 36 where he was just wide open on a wheel route down the sidelines, just absolutely wide open. The Panthers, though, their biggest weakness continues to be on offense. They just don't have a lot of great targets at receiver. Like, other than McMillan, there's nobody to throw to. Their tight ends aren't even very good either. So it's kind of rough. And then defensively, they weren't very good in terms of defending the pass. Dak Prescott, I thought, once again, played a really good game. 25 for 34, 261, 3 touchdowns, no picks, a 90 QBR, and a 124 passer rating. No mistakes from Dak Prescott. It's just that they actually couldn't run the ball in this game. And the winner of this game ended up being the team that could run the ball in a dominant fashion and control the game and control the possession. And that was the Panthers. 13 carries for 29 yards. 2.2 yards per carry for Javonte Williams, who's been a superstar this year. The Panthers stopped the run and ran the ball, and that's what we were looking forward to from Carolina before the year, and that was the formula today. Now, that being said, George Pickens was fucking unstoppable in this game. Nobody could cover George Pickens. He was stiff-arming people. He was just running by people on slants. He was running curls and comebacks for days. They could not cover him. And I don't know what the Panthers are doing defensively, but they continue to play against teams where they're just picking on Michael Jackson the entire game. Like, Stephon Diggs picked on Michael Jackson. And then, again, you had the Cowboys just picking on Michael Jackson. Like, at a certain point, are we going to make J.C. Horn cover the number 1 receiver? Like, at some point, is Evero going to make an adjustment? Like, that also falls on Canales. Like, dude, make a switch up here. Nobody else for the Cowboys really did anything. Ferguson scored a touchdown, but only had 33 yards. It was literally just George Pickens. It was Dak Prescott to George Pickens. Every single time I would look away from the Patriots game and look to the Cowboys game, it was George Pickens. Like, we knew that was a great trade for the Cowboys. I think George Pickens is better than DK Metcalf. And DK Metcalf's having a good season for the Steelers right now, considering what his role is in that offense. Pickens is better. Like, Pickens is more like a savvy, quicker, just like separator at the top of his routes. And I think he's just more like malleable, if that makes sense. Like, his body movements are more like Gumby-like. DK Metcalf is more just stiff. I feel like Pickens can just do more as a player. So to me, this is an absolute steal of a move by the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, without George Pickens, I don't know what the score is in this game. Like, I have no idea. So defensively, the Cowboys continue to stink it up. Donovan Wilson did have a pick, but no pressure against Bryce Young. Only 1 sack. No run defense to speak of. Dallas with a letdown in Carolina. 27 first downs for the Panthers. 410 yards for the Panthers. 6.4 yards per play. The Cowboys continue to be the worst defense in football. Worst defense in football. Wow. Wow, they suck. But Carolina, congratulations, 3-3. And Carolina, I don't think they're anything. I think they're a mid-team. But they have a better record than Dallas, who's sitting at 2-3-1. 1-3 on the road. Eberflus is terrible. He is terrible. I mean, I don't know how many times you can run cover 3 match, but I guess that they're just going to keep running cover 3 at some point. You got to switch it up. Evero and Eberflus. Two absolute jokes. Two absolute jabronis. Okay? Let's get to another jabroni. I mean, a standout performance by the one and only prince that was promised, Trevor Lawrence. Talk about a terrible quarterback. Trevor Lawrence is an absolute bum. This stat line does no justice to what I witnessed today from Trevor Lawrence. 27 for 42, 258, 2 touchdowns, no picks. He had a 97 passer rating. That looks pretty good. On paper, Trevor Lawrence played better than Mac Jones. That couldn't be further from the truth today. Trevor Lawrence took 7 sacks. 7 sacks. And when I tell you he took 7 sacks, I'm not exaggerating. I don't know if there was one sack in this game where it wasn't Trevor Lawrence's fault. Trevor Lawrence was terrible. Every third down, every passing situation, this guy was like, and this is what I said last week. Lawrence has an arm. Lawrence has legs. Lawrence has hair. He's got all that. Lawrence doesn't have a brain. There's nothing in between the ears. Like, you guys watch Justin Fields, which we'll get to in a second, take 9 sacks. This performance was almost as egregious. There was a massive drop by Brian Thomas on a third down with like 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But other than that, I mean, he can blame his receivers all he wants. Trevor Lawrence was absolute booty cheek. The rushing game for Jacksonville, a big reason Seattle won. They were held to 59 yards on the ground, including Lawrence only running for 9 yards. ETN, who's had a great year, 2.3 yards per carry. Tootin, only 2 carries in this game. Probably should have got more looks. Did have 7 yards per carry. But like, ETN was held in check. Jacksonville was also missing their center, which is pretty big, right? Rob Hainsey has actually been a great signing for them. Contrary to my belief, like, I'm not a huge Hainsey guy. Watching him in Tampa Bay, never thought he was very good. But in Jacksonville, under Liam Cohen, he's actually been very good. So that was a big loss going into this game. But I figured, like, Seattle has no secondary. I just watched Baker slice, dice, and absolutely control the game against Seattle without their secondary. I thought that Jacksonville, they would do enough on offense to score 23, 24 points and win this game. They couldn't even do that. And guys, they had like, I want to say 3 or 4 drives with an opportunity to tie this game at 20. 3 or 4 opportunities where their defense gave them a chance to tie this game. And they couldn't do it. They couldn't do it. Now, give credit to Seattle, right? Give credit to Seattle, their pass rush. Give credit to Seattle's defense for holding firm in those moments. But like, man, Trevor Lawrence, if you're half decent with 3 or 4 opportunities to tie this game, you've got to do it. You're making fucking $50 million a year, pal. Like, what are you doing? $50 million. You suck. Okay? Seattle, meanwhile, they couldn't run the ball. Jacksonville's defense, I thought, played well in this game. They just gave up too many, like, the plays they gave up were just too many big explosives, which is basically Seattle's offense. Seattle's offense is run the ball and look for 40-yard bombs. That's basically what it is. 20-yard, 30-yard, 40-yard chunks. That's their offense. And Sam Darnold's really good at that offense, right? He's a really good deep ball thrower. I think he's in the top 3 or 4 in the NFL right now, throwing the ball deep. Jackson Smith and Jigba again had another huge touchdown, 61-yard touchdown. JSN, 162 yards on 13 targets. Barner also had a 61-yard play. 2 61-yard plays. One of them beating the new Jag, Greg Newsome, down the field. Cooper Kupp also had a 2-play sequence for a touchdown drive where he scored a touchdown on a corner route in the end zone, and he also slipped by the defense from the slot and caught like a long gain of 29. But otherwise, Seattle didn't do anything on offense. They just hit a bunch of shot plays, like a few shot plays, not a bunch. They only had 16 completions. A few shot plays, and their defense took care of business. That was basically the game. So the defenses, even despite the injuries for Seattle, dominated the day. And basically, Sam Darnold being better than Trevor Lawrence was the difference to me. Seattle was 1 for 12 on third down, and they won this game. Like, I saw a Seahawks fan in my chat say that they're a top 10 team. I'm sorry. Like, they're maybe in this league, they're number 10 or number 9. But to me, still, like, not a great team. I just feel like 13 first downs. 1 for 12 on third down. If you're playing a half-decent quarterback, you lose this game. Like, 10 penalties for 76 yards for the Jags. I wonder how many were caused by Trevor Lawrence being an absolute buffoon. The offensive line for the Jags did get worked, and we know Seattle's pass rush is good. I mean, Nwosu, Byron Murphy, who had 2 sacks. Leonard Williams had half. DeMarcus Lawrence had 2. Yeah, like, Seattle's good, but they're not some upper echelon contender. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is the story of the game for me. He's just terrible. Like, he is just so bad. So, 20-12 for the Seahawks. They take it. The formula continues to stand. I know exactly who Seattle is. They're going to have to win this way in a lot of big games. Shot plays, run the ball hopefully a bit better than today, and play good defense and get some pressure and cause some mistakes. That's how they're going to win, right? That's how they're going to win games. That's the formula for them. Okay, let's go to the London game. I watched this entire thing, unfortunately. One of the worst football games I've seen, especially this season. 13-11 for Denver. Now, this is an example of a game that I have no idea how Denver didn't cover. This is how okay, guys, let's go through the stats. So Denver won 13-11, barely beating the Jets. Let's go through the stats. The Jets had 82 yards. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not making this up. Like the video. 82 yards. They had 8 first downs. 8. They ran 57 plays, which was the same amount as Denver, and they had 82 yards. They averaged 1.4 yards per play. 1.4. I feel like I could roll the BC Lions onto an NFL field, and they would have more yards than the New York Jets. Justin Fields almost won a game today where he had 45 yards passing. 45. Justin Fields was sacked 9 times. Not 5, not 6, not 7, not 8. 9 times. He had a QBR of 9.0. 9 completions. He had as many sacks as completions. Guys, Justin Fields has to be the worst quarterback in the league. And again, he took like 7 of these sacks. He took like 7 sacks in this game. And when I say took, I mean it's his fault. Like, he probably, like Trevor Lawrence, responsible for 90% of the sacks. There was maybe 1 or 2 where Nick Bonito just cleaned the guy and he got a sack. But other than that, this guy took 7 sacks. He's holding the ball, looking at the flat guy wide open, and he just doesn't throw it. I've never seen a quarterback like Justin Fields in my life where he's literally staring at a guy wide open and he doesn't throw the ball. It's like he rather doesn't trust the accuracy of his passes, he's blind and he needs glasses, or he's just like, he's losing on purpose. Like, I really don't understand. I don't understand. Bo Nix, meanwhile, was not much better. 19 for 30, 174 and a touchdown. And I said this in the BLV versus consensus chat on Discord, which, by the way, guys, if you're not in the Discord, I don't know what you're doing. It's free. Join, jabroni. If you want to talk to NFL fans, talk to us in the Discord. But Bo Nix, like, bro, one big throw down the field. Otherwise, like, all screen passes, all quick outlet passes, all schemed up stuff. If the Denver Broncos had Drake Maye, they would win the Super Bowl. Like, the Denver Broncos, Bo Nix has no excuses. Sure, he doesn't have an elite receiving core, but he has Courtland Sutton, who's a legit number one receiver, right? And he's got a couple other guys that have good skill sets. The O-line's top 3 in football. Sean Payton is top 5 in football. The defense is top 5, top 3 in football. Like, if you swap Drake Maye and Bo Nix, the Broncos are going to win the Super Bowl. Like, Bo Nix is what's capping this team to a divisional round at most. This defense is awesome. They dominated today. They dominated. They had 9 sacks. They held a team to 45 yards. The Jets scored by scoring a safety in the end zone, a field goal off of a fumble on the first drive of the game that gave the ball inside Denver territory, and a kick return that was like 60 yards. That was 8 of their 11 points. 8 of their 11 points. 2 drives started in Bronco territory, and 1 was a safety. Wow. Denver, that is why I just can't put them in the contention conversation. Their offense just has these games like this. And they scored 10 points in the first, and they scored 3 the rest of the game. They could have lost this game. The Jets had the ball near midfield with a chance to win the game with a game-winning field goal, and Fields, guess what he did? Took a sack. The Jets should start Tyrod Taylor. They really should. They really should. The Los Angeles Rams were tied 3-3 with the Baltimore Ravens at halftime. 17-3 is the final. Stafford ends up with only 181 yards. Kyron Williams only 50 yards on the ground. Puka Nacua got injured. But the Rams kicker sucks. Cardi is absolute crap. He missed like a 27-yard field goal. Cooper Rush is a disaster. 72 yards and a pick on 11 completions with a 23 QBR. Tyler Huntley's not much better. Took 4 sacks in the game. A QBR of 61 and 68 total yards. The Ravens were running the ball at will. 122 yards. 5.1 yards per carry. The only time they couldn't run the ball was at the 1-yard line when they got stuffed 4 consecutive times. If not for that, the Ravens would have covered this game. Probably should have covered this game. The Rams kept, and honestly, the Ravens kept turning the ball over. Interception by Rush inside their territory. Fumble by Zay Flowers while they were in Rams territory. They turned the ball over 3 times, I want to say. It was pretty bad. And also 7 penalties by the Ravens for 80 yards, 3 turnovers, 2 fumbles, 1 by Cooper Rush, inside Raven territory. But the Ravens dominated possession, 37 minutes of possession. So if I'm a Rams fan, I'm pretty concerned. We're 4-2, which is great. The Niners are falling apart, but they managed to beat you guys last week. The Rams defense has had a susceptible performance in time of possession in 2 weeks consecutively, 1 to a dink and dunk passing game and 1 to a running game. This week, the Rams offense struggled to score against what was the worst defense in football entering this game. Pretty concerning, in my opinion. The Rams got outgained. The Ravens had more first downs, more time of possession. The Ravens with Cooper Rush and Tyler Huntley. That's concerning. That is concerning to me. So, not impressed by the Rams despite covering my best bet on the day. Or not my best bet on the day, but best bet on the picks. So, pretty rough. Pittsburgh Steelers, meanwhile, Ravens are 1-5. Steelers are 5-1. Or 4-1, sorry. They had a bye. This might have been their most impressive performance as a team. I know it was against the Browns, but 23-9, they win by 2 touchdowns, so they win convincingly. I thought they moved the ball fairly well against a good Cleveland defense. And their defense made some plays, specifically on third down. They caused a lot of penalties from Cleveland. The Cleveland could not block Pittsburgh, period. And then Rodgers looked good. Rodgers made a lot of throws outside the pocket, extending plays, rolling out, throwing missiles, throwing darts. A really nice touchdown in the back of the end zone to number 83, Connor Hayward, the brother of Cameron Hayward. A nice play on third down. Was it to Jalen Warren, I think, where he got through pressure and he was able to throw it. Their run game was solid enough. Warren averaged 4.7 yards per carry had 52 yards on 11 carries. Gainwell averaged 3.7. I still kind of like Gainwell, I'm not going to lie. And then I thought they did a really good job, Pittsburgh, of Arthur Smith had his best game with Aaron Rodgers. They did a great job using their tight ends and using some motion, 3-2 tight end formations, using their receivers getting the ball on handoffs. Darnell Washington had 3 catches for 62 yards. Jonnu Smith had 3 catches. Connor Hayward had a catch. Pat Freiermuth had a catch. So that's a lot of catches from tight ends. And some catches from running backs. 6 from Gainwell, only for 14 yards. 2 from Warren. So that's 8 catches from running backs and 5 or 6 from tight ends, right? DK also had a big game, 4 for 95 and a touchdown, including a long touchdown down the right sideline, I believe in the second half, or maybe even the fourth quarter. Dylan Gabriel was 29 for 52, 221, 4.3 yards per completion, which is not good, and a 66 passer rating. He was sacked 6 times. And unlike, I would say, Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, Gabriel really had no chance. They couldn't block the Steelers whatsoever. And it's almost every pass Cleveland was making was short. And every time they would have a completion that was deep down the field, it would get called back. It felt like in the first half, every single one would get called back. And Judy must have had 150 yards called back in this game. That's at least what it felt like. He had 13 targets, 5 catches, 43 yards. Fannin had 7 for 81 on 10 targets. Njoku had 3 for 28 on 6 targets. Fannin back on top for this team. If anyone can share the Discord link, please share it in the chat. If you guys are here and you're in the Discord, please share it. If not, bro, wait till the end and I will send that link for you, Atlas, okay? But yeah, Gabriel really struggled with the pressure. The Steelers also finally stopped the run, only allowing 3 yards per carry to Judkins, who had been a destroyer previously. 2 sacks for Nick Herbig, who's a really good player. 2 sacks for Jalen Ramsey on blitzes. Half a sack for TJ Watt. And a sack for Derek Harmon. So biggest thing for a Steelers fan, this is the Browns. They're 1-5. They're terrible on the road, Cleveland. And they were in a really tough spot, the Browns were. And the Browns had multiple opportunities to make this a competitive game, right? They did have more first downs than the Steelers. They did run 20 more plays than the Steelers. They had 75 plays ran, which might have been the most I've seen from any team so far. And they were 2 for 4 on fourth down. And they were ineffective in the red zone. But the thing with the Browns is they can't block anybody. They don't have any explosive passing game, which is partly on Gabriel. It's not really his skill set, but they just can't block anybody. And they were 0 for 3 in the red zone. So Cleveland, terrible in the red zone, right? But Pittsburgh, I thought it was their most complete performance. Even if this game wasn't really 23-9, it was probably more of a 23-17. But I still felt good about how their offense played against this defense and just the way it looked. And then I also felt like in some of the key areas the Steelers need to be successful, they were successful, right? That is run defense. That is a solid running game. That is the screen game on offense. Those are things, and Rodgers played well, and those are things that the Steelers can replicate moving forward. We don't have too much more time until Sunday Night Football, but I want to get through a couple more games, so stick around if you want to. You don't have to, but it's up to you guys. I've gone through most of the stuff so far. I do have to get to the Patriots, so stick around for that if you want to talk about that. The Colts beat the Cardinals 31-27, barely hanging on. I don't want to go through the whole game just for time's sake, but I will say this. Main theme of this game for me is, one, the Colts defense against legitimate offenses is concerning, which is why I don't think they're a contender. Okay, bye, Singh. We're still going, by the way. A legitimate contender can slice this defense up. But number 2, Jacoby Brissett in this offense is a better fit than Kyler Murray. And this is kind of like, this is what I'm saying about Kyler Murray is on the wrong team. Kyler Murray is playing on the wrong team in the wrong scheme. It's an example of a coaching staff hiring the wrong coordinator and the wrong offense for the wrong quarterback. When Jacoby Brissett can come into a game and throw for 320 yards and 2 touchdowns and complete 27 for 44 against a good NFL team, that kind of speaks to like, yeah, Brissett is a good backup. We know this, right? But he was terrible on New England last year. Like, Jacoby Brissett was putrid on the Patriots last season, just to remind you guys, right? But Kyler is in the wrong offense. The Cardinals' offense works when you get under center and you run play action. And Kyler Murray is not that quarterback. Kyler Murray is a spread quarterback. He's an air raid quarterback. That's what he is, right? He's a good scrambler. He's a good extension artist. He's got a good arm, and he's got the quick dink and dunk passes, and let him work from read option. He's not an under-centered play-action passer. He's not that. He's never been that. And so to watch the Cardinals go to Indy and run play-action and just shred the Colts with Jacoby Brissett speaks to the way the Cardinals are just not matching with who their quarterback is. So I almost want both of these entities to separate. The Cardinals to separate from Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray to separate from the Colts. Like, if Kyler Murray was on the Dolphins would be, like, the Dolphins would have an elite offense. Kyler would be looked at as a Pro Bowl quarterback, right? Instead, he's on the Cardinals. It's just the wrong fit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just the wrong fit. Zay Jones, shout out to him, 79 yards, 5 catches. Tyler Warren continues to be a stud, 6 catches, 63 yards, and a touchdown. I will say, Colston Loveland has done next to nothing this year. Kind of puzzling that the Bears took him over Warren at this point. Just the way that they're not using Loveland at all. Just going to throw that out there. McBride, again, 8 catches, 72 yards, and a touchdown. Bam Knight, who is all name team, touchdown in this game. Jonathan Taylor continues his offensive player of the year case, 123 yards and a touchdown. There's just a couple runs where Jonathan Taylor reminds me of prime Nick Chubb, where he just like stops, starts, stop, start. He's like a robot when he runs the ball. He's just fun to watch that way. Powerful, fast. Kind of gives me Nick Chubb vibes all the time. The Chargers and the Dolphins, 29-27. What separates these two teams is Tua throwing 3 interceptions. The first one was not his fault. Jalen Waddle should have caught the ball. It's terrible. The one in his own end was pretty bad and in a huge spot in the game. And then he threw one at the end of the game. So 2 of them weren't really his fault. Or, I mean, the one at the end is his fault, but it's not like a big deal. The other one, not his fault, but one of them was huge in the game. Herbert threw 0 interceptions, only took 1 sack. And also, the difference in this game was the Chargers continue to run the ball. Like, doesn't matter the running back. This week, they ran the ball for 124 yards, 6.9 yards per clip, and Vidal was that guy doing it. 124, 6.9 yards per clip, 38 yard. And he looked good to me. And this is a Dolphins team that allowed 200 yards against Rico Dowdle. I understand that. But Dowdle just backed it up with 180 against Dallas. So I will say that. But Vidal looked good. I actually thought he looked pretty good. I don't know about you guys, but I thought he looked pretty good. And he was clearly the starter ahead of Haskins, which I didn't expect. Because many people were expecting Haskins to be the guy. Devon Achane had 128 yards and 2 touchdowns. He also had a 50-yard touchdown, which was pretty impressive. And the Chargers continue to struggle running the ball. So they found their way running the ball, but they struggled to stop the run, I should say. So a key weakness for the Chargers moving forward is stopping the run. They did go and get Oweh for a reason, but they continue to struggle stopping the run. Tua, I thought, had some good throws in this game on time, kind of made his routine plays. But again, he's kind of like Mac, where it's like they dial in on what they're going to do, and then they just throw an egregious pass. Or like it just goes straight to the other team. Or like they don't have the physical ability to overcome the limitations of their pre-snap read. If they don't read the pre-snap perfectly, they throw the ball in a bad position and it hurts the offense, or they have to take a sack, or they have to throw the ball away or something, right? Herbert, though, was dialed in the second half, 29 for 38, 2 touchdowns, 264. Incredible play where he's about to get sacked, gets out of the sack, throws a crosser to Ladd McConkey for a huge play that got them the game-winning field goal on the game-winning drive. Ladd McConkey had his best game of the season, 7 for 100 and a touchdown, was dialed in on those crossing routes off play action. Love the play action usage from the Chargers in this game. It was money from them, absolutely money. Some guy named Gadsden had 7 catches for 68 yards, a tight end. Okay, maybe they found a weapon today. Interesting. Keenan Allen and Trey Harris also had 4 catches each. Trey Harris getting involved. Very little from Quentin Johnston, who of course didn't play in this game. So somebody had to step up. Keenan Allen kind of quiet, surprisingly, but Ladd McConkey stepped up in the lack of Quentin Johnston. Jalen Waddle had some catches, 6 for 95, but he also caused an interception from Tua, in my opinion. Not much else happened for the Dolphins in terms of weapon-wise. Darren Waller did have a game-leading touchdown, but didn't do too much else other than that. The Dolphins continue to struggle in the secondary, continue to struggle to get pressure. Only 1 sack against this offensive line. I'm not sure if it's the Dolphins or if it's the Chargers. I'm not sure if I'm leaning towards it's more the Dolphins who can't get pressure on the Chargers, but the Chargers' reliance and ability to use play action consistently was a big theme of this game that allowed them to protect Herbert because they had extra tight ends in the game. They were able to block it up. They were able to give him time to throw the ball downfield, which I thought was a big element of protection in this game. And finally, I want to end with the New England Patriots as the Lions and Chiefs appear to be underway right now. I'm going to end with the Patriots, who beat the Saints 25-19. Story of this game. We'll talk about it on Tuesday as well. Drake Maye is a stud. If you guys don't believe that Drake Maye is a top 5 quarterback in the league, I don't know what you're watching. Today he had 140 passer rating, 18 for 26, 261, 3 touchdowns, 92 quarterback rating, only took 1 sack. Drake Maye was sensational. Every single time the Patriots put him in a position where he needed to make a throw, he made the throw. And this was not a good game from Josh McDaniels, in my opinion. We struggled to run the ball again, and this is a reason Drake Maye should be in the MVP conversation. This might be the worst running game in the league. Henderson averaged 3 yards a carry. Stevenson had 13 carries for 18 yards. That's 1.4 yards per carry. We cannot run the ball. Drake Maye led the team in rushing with 28 yards on 9 carries. A lot of them were quarterback sneaks. But that's, again, 3rd down conversions, 2nd down conversions. That's a big deal. But Maye was completing deep passes. He even had passes that were taken away from him on scramble drills to Demario Douglas because of the worst ref crew I've seen all season. This refereeing was absolutely horrendous. There was numerous calls that were terrible in this game, from offensive pass interferences to defensive pass interferences to lack of the poor ball spot to the 2-point conversions to the challenges, absolutely terrible. All the way across the board. Just terrible refereeing, in my opinion. The Patriots, despite that, get the win. But Drake Maye, man, just unbelievable. I can't say enough about this guy. Kayshon Boutte, in his return to New Orleans, was also really good in this game. 5 for 93 and 2 touchdowns. Huge catch to end the game in the 4th quarter. 2 touchdowns, deep down the field. The top 2 targets for Maye averaged 18 and 23 yards per catch. Douglas, 23 yards per catch. He should have had over 100 yards because he should have had another touchdown, but it was called back. He had a touchdown and 71 yards. Boutte, 93, 2 touchdowns. So explosiveness from Drake Maye. Mac Hollins also had 14 yards per catch. Diggs was actually quiet in this game. The Saints took him away, and the Patriots found a way to continue, and Drake Maye continued to find a way to pass the ball very effectively. I will say the Patriots defense did not have a good first half, but they had a great second half. They only allowed 3 points in the second half, and they won the game in the second half because the Patriots couldn't really move the ball in the second half because Josh McDaniels just wanted to run the ball the entire second half and a bunch of pussy play calling that I wasn't a huge fan of. So it gave the Saints plenty of chances to win this game or come back in this game, but the Patriots were just the better team when it came down to it. I want to give a lot of credit to Spencer Rattler, who I thought actually shined. 20 for 26, 227, no touchdowns, no picks, a 102 passer rating. I thought he played really well. Thought he made a lot of accurate passes. I thought he really managed the offense well. He always seemingly found the open guy. He made some scramble plays. He ran the ball a few times, 4 for 20. And they didn't really run the ball well at all, the Saints. They only had 73 yards in total, 53 yards from running backs. 31 from Kamara, 21 from Miller, 3.1 from Kamara per carry, 2.6 from Miller per carry. So not good from the Saints running the ball with their backs, which puts more pressure on Rattler. And despite the pressure and despite the Patriots defense, he played really well, especially in the first half. Chris Olave, 6 for 98. He also had a really good game, maybe showcasing his talent to the Patriots. I also found the Patriots' defensive game plan to be puzzling until the second half, where they were playing very soft coverage and bend but don't break. And I just didn't like their plan. The first play of the game, they blitz a corner and they give up a huge 60-yard play where Duggar false step in coverage. That gave up a huge play for a field goal right away to the Saints. Kamara did look good as a receiver, but he's a little bit McCaffrey-like right now, where he doesn't have a lot of juice as a runner, but he's more just a great receiver. Shaheed did next to nothing in this game. I think Gonzo was mostly covering him, but it was puzzling that Olave was just always open. I didn't love the game plan there on Olave. But yeah, Patriots, Marcus Jones had some great plays in this game. He had a sack, a tackle for loss, 3 pass defense, quarterback hit. Rob Spillane had 11 tackles in this game. Gonzo was quiet. It just felt like they didn't really target him. Wherever he wasn't, they went after. Carlton Davis had a weak game, in my opinion. Duggar struggled a little bit, starting in for Hawkins. Tonga had a strong game for the Patriots. Defensively for the Saints, they really weren't very good, but they were very good against the run. They had a number of plays against the run. They had 7 tackles for loss, 2 from Bullard. So their D-line was solid against the run, but they just didn't really get a lot of pass rush. And when they did, Drake Maye just made the miss and made the throw. So Patriots win 25-19. They're now 4-2 on the season, looking like a playoff team. They're 3-0 on the road too, which is a big sign of a team that probably has to go on the road in the playoffs because the Bills are probably going to win the division, although who knows? They did beat the Bills last week. But yeah, proud of my team. Good win. Tough spot in terms of having to come back from an emotional victory. More on that game on Tuesday. But yeah, Drake Maye, the story of the day for the Patriots. Just continues to be the MVP of maybe the NFL, but definitely the Patriots. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed Gronk, spike the like button. Enjoy Sunday Night Football, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.